Welcome to this talk. Today we're going to be discussing Analytics Enlightenment, a revolution of technology, community, and automation. I hope by the end of this talk today that you'll know some of what it takes to build your own thriving analytics community in your organization. So I thought I'd start off by introducing myself and giving you all some insight into why this is an important topic and why it's interesting to me. So I started my journey, or my career, in software development. I worked there for a number of years, and afterwards I moved into analytics consultancy, where I worked for a number of years at a company called Boolean. And this year I had the great privilege to join Fidelity International as part of their people analytics team. And I'll be sharing some of the stories from my journey at those companies. And what I really want to kind of get across is, throughout my career, community has been a really key aspect. When I started off in software development, I got involved through kind of one of my mentors advised me to get involved with Stack Overflow. Over the course of that year, I became one of the top 10 answerers on Stack Overflow for the Ionic 4 web framework. I then took that with me, so when I moved to analytics consultancy, I was introduced to a fantastic technology called Data Robot. Over the course of that year, I became the #1 data science author on the analytics platform. And most recently, over the course of 2 years, I've been heavily involved with the Alteryx community. Now, last year I was one of their top annual contributors, and this year I had the honor of joining the Alteryx Ace program, a council of some of the top Alteryx users. A few other highlights in my career have been winning a Dynamite Award for my work in automating HR analytics with Alteryx and Power BI. I always love a good hackathon, and this week I actually had the privilege to go to the McLaren Center and see some of the wonderful technology they use in their analytics processing. So that's kind of how community's been a big part of my kind of career. And what it's gave me is kind of an insight into what builds a successful community in an organization, what people are interested in, what people have questions about when it comes to community. And essentially that's why I wanted to deliver this talk today, to kind of get that across, get people inspired and wanting to be involved in communities in their own organization. So that's why I care about all this. Why should you? So here we have an analytics maturity scale. You'll see there's various stages. Along the bottom you'll see that the number of people within an organization who are analytics capable, going from the standard where most people are at 1%, where you have a internal reporting team who will do most of the analytics for everyone, ranging all the way up to 50% at stage 5. Now what this can mean in terms of real outcomes is companies at a higher stage of maturity, in terms of the number of people who are analytics capable within the organization, will outperform companies which have a lower maturity. So less people who are able to work with data, who are able to automate their processes, and all that good stuff. So that's really the purpose of today's talk. We're going to talk about how community, along with the right technologies, can increase your organization's maturity and get those real outcomes through automation, getting data quicker, getting answers quicker, and the overall good things that can come from community and technology working together. So I thought I'd quickly start off with what you need to think about when wandering around today, looking at all the technologies and how they can impact your organization. So the first thing I wrote, right tool for the job. What I mean by that is we all have technical experts within our organization. These might be Python developers, VBA developers, SQL developers. Now these people are extremely technical, but they're a very small minority in the organization. This causes many problems. So, for instance, they are solely relied upon for automation. When they automate things, they are not the data experts. Very often they are doing it on behalf of someone else. What I would propose is, if you have technologies which can reduce the barrier to entry, so that subject matter experts of the data the people are using this data on the day-to-day, if they can have access to technologies which can allow them to work with that data effectively, there's huge potential there. And of course, if you give technology to these people to reduce the barrier to entry, you'll also want technology which allows them to build processes which are these things, which are auditable, understandable, and maintainable. So what that means is the technology needs to have some guardrails in there to make sure that they don't fall foul of the kind of mistakes that might occur in using technologies like code to automate processes. And ultimately this comes down to using skills effectively. You want your technical staff working on your most technical problems, and you want everyone else to have the ability to automate their own processes and build them out themselves without relying on a small minority to do all the work. And ultimately, our overall goal is to have better decisions faster. So I thought I'd start off with a few stories from my own organization, Fidelity, and how we've used certain technologies to automate processes throughout the organization. So I'm in people analytics. Some of you who don't know what that is, that's essentially analytics for HR. I work with people data, and that can take many forms. So here's a classic problem that we faced at Fidelity, is that we have to produce a lot of documents in the HR department. And those documents require potentially complex calculations, whether that's to do with person's benefits information, their personal information, and this information comes from various sources. Once we have all that information, we then need to, well, what we previously would have to do is manually input it into these documents and then send it out to various different sources. Now, we were looking for a technology which would mean that we wouldn't have to go to the IT department to write a VBA script to do this for us. So we initially thought maybe mail merge could potentially do this, but what we needed was a system which could do all of this and also do those complex essentially these documents were so complex, mail merge wasn't an option. What we came to was using Alteryx Designer. What Alteryx Designer is essentially a platform which is what I referred to before. It reduces the barrier to entry and allows people who aren't technical to build these kind of processes. So using Alteryx, we built what they call a workflow, which is essentially just a flow chart, and it connects to our various data sources, be that Workday, benefits team, HR business partners, or even financial information, all automatically through a very easy drag and drop tool system. It then processes it, doing all our calculations automatically, and outputs it to various points of contact. So whether that's outputting the Word document to Excel, to SharePoint, or even outputting to Outlook or PDFs. Ultimately, this workflow allowed our team, which wasn't a software development team or anything like that, to create a process which was previously done in 4 hours, down to less than a minute. So we could fully create, at scale, hundreds of employee documents with ease. This is another story, exactly the same sort of scenario. We in the HR department needed a technology which could automate the production of hundreds of Excel reports. And this was because of a regulatory report we had to do for the government on our training data. Previously, we had the issue that we had to produce hundreds of these, and it was a very manual effort of copying and pasting the details from a bulk data sheet into hundreds of separate templates. And of course, this was a government report, so it was highly regulated. We couldn't just give them an Excel sheet and say that's good enough. We had to do it exactly how they like it. And again, we used Alteryx Designer as a solution for that, turning a 20-hour manual process down to less than 1 second. I've actually got a quote on the board from one of the members involved in the project. They said it was like magic. And that really speaks to when people see Alteryx and they use Alteryx Designer for these kind of things, it just makes sense. And yeah, people enjoyed using it. So this is just one of the technologies and a few examples from using Alteryx Designer at Fidelity. A few other areas we're looking at are regulatory reporting, data prep for our BI tools, compiling information, comms, and survey analysis, so doing essentially sentiment analysis and also topic modeling with Alteryx. Because what we've found is Alteryx is capable of doing so much more than just taking data from one source, transposing it, putting it out on another source. It is a full analytics suite with text analysis, predictive analysis, AutoML, all that good stuff. So we're really just touching the surface of what we're capable of. So that was Alteryx Designer. I'll just point out here is an Alteryx workflow that we made at Fidelity, just to give you an idea. It is just a flowchart of tools going from right to left, very easy to understand from a user perspective. So, here's a second success story. This is an example from my days in consulting. I worked with many clients looking to use Alteryx Auto Insights. And what Alteryx Auto Insights is essentially it's a platform which looks to solve a common problem with potentially Power BI or Tableau. So when I was producing these Tableau reports for my clients, a kind of common problem that we run into is they would have a KPI, for instance, employee attrition. This is a quite complex metric which involves employee headcount and number of leavers. And when they looked at the dashboard, they'd see that that number had gone down 10%. And what they'd come back to me with is what caused that 10% drop. Answering that question in a way that they wanted was very hard. The reason being is because you can break that down in millions of ways with all kinds of data. So with employee data, that 10% drop could have been majority due to a certain generational thing. So millennials could have been higher leaver numbers in that particular generational group, millennials. Or we could have had, for instance, a certain age bracket, or we could have had employees of a certain length of service were more likely to leave. There's loads of ways you can break this down to try and understand what's causing the leaver population to occur. What we came to was using Alteryx Auto Insights. This essentially allowed us to upload all of our employee information, and it would give us instant feedback on root cause analysis, outlier detection, anomaly detection, instantly, and giving us verbal feedback which we could then feed back to the stakeholders in the C-suite. And this was essentially a revolutionary for the team. I've actually got a quote from one of the clients who used Auto Insights with me, Ian Reed from Kingfisher. He says, Auto Insights tells them why the KPIs have changed, what's influenced the number, and allowed them to model the data themselves in real time to drive their own analytics insights. And that essentially speaks to what the platform's all about. It required minimal technical input, and all it required was just to input the data, and we got the answers instantly. So, okay, those were two technologies which I've seen which allows you to reduce the barriers to entry. I want to talk now to the second part of that process, which is community. And the reason why I think that's so important is because I've seen in a lot of organizations, you have the licenses, but no one wants to use them. Or no one has any interest, there isn't the bandwidth, there are various excuses, no one's training in it, no one's using it. So that's where community is key. Why is it important? Well, it gives you a centralized area to view your organization as a whole and the use of that platform. It connects users and breaks silos, so that has obviously numerous benefits. I'm going to speak about the community we've built at Fidelity International and how we found that potentially there are two teams doing very similar processes. Connecting those dots using a community obviously is a huge time saver. But ultimately, the most important thing about community is the ability to inspire people and get them wanting to use a platform and to learn and upskill. And also to allow them to celebrate success, because that's another key aspect of this. We've leveraged the community at Fidelity International to essentially give a place where employees can brag about the work they're doing. So, here we have a slide on the community and how we built it. It was several steps in the process. When we wanted to build a community, we first started off with Alteryx Designer as a kind of a platform that we wanted to share with the organization and get them interested in learning. How we went about that, we started off by reaching out to the entire business. So we sent around comms, inviting people to inspiration sessions, start sessions, intro sessions, showing them the platform, getting them interested, showing what it's capable of already, and getting them thinking about what they could do in their area. Once we got that initial intro out there, we of course recorded it and made sure that people in all time zones could watch that, and also we had that always to loop back to whenever new people started coming in. We had a streamlined onboarding process. So this might not be as easy for other organizations, but at Fidelity we have our own essentially a project system whereby anyone in the organization can see what projects are available and they can opt in to join. So we posted our Alteryx upskilling project on there, and that gave us a kind of anyone in the organization a straight line path to start using Alteryx. We then created a shared information space. So for us, that was a team site, and whenever someone entered the onboarding process, they'd be entered into the team site. That gave us a centralized list of users who we then could target with the various other aspects of the program, so regular comms and events. We use this team site as an area for people to we use it as an email distribution list, and also as a place to advertise internal sessions. Now, these sessions were another key aspect of this. So we had inspiration sessions, like I said. We had sessions for training, which were led internally and externally. We had demo sessions where if, for instance, an employee completed a use case, we would then showcase that to the organization, allowing anyone to attend if they were interested. And like I said, employee success was key to this. So you'll actually see on the left here some family pets of mine, Jasmine, Spat, and Charlie. Now, this is just a fictitious example, but anytime an employee got a certification, we made sure to make that front and center of the news and front and center of our team site so that everyone would know. And it was just kind of, it gives the employee something to be proud of and makes other employees want to engage more. And that was the feedback we got. Another important aspect of this, so once we established that internal community, surveys were key. So very often if you establish a community, people will run away and you won't know what they're up to. You've given them a license, they're probably doing great work, but if they don't tell you, then you won't know. So we had a community surveys on various topics. So for instance, how people were feeling about the platform, what use cases were they working on, what use cases have they completed, what certifications have they completed. And that's how we collected all that information. And of course that allowed us to have strong governance control over who was using the platform. And this final one here, gamification, that for me was the big one which kind of brought it all together. And what do I mean by gamification? So you're probably thinking in your head, we've got surveys, getting people to fill them out is a bit of a hassle. How do I actually get people wanting to fill in surveys, wanting to tell us what they're up to? And the way we did that was through gamification. When someone submitted a survey result, we gave them points. That went on our Alteryx leaderboard. Whenever someone completed a user case, we gave them points. That went on the leaderboard. You'll see, for instance, Jasmine here, she has got her core certification. She's attended multiple sessions and use cases, as well as led a demo session internally. And from this, this kind of gives everyone in the organization a view on what people are up to. It gives people a place to brag about the work they're doing and feel like they're involved. And if you really want to take it to the nth level, like we have, if you're in the top 5 of the month, we offer some Alteryx swag in various forms, be that a mug or anything like that, just to make people feel like we do care about what they're up to, and we want to celebrate what they're up to. And here's just an example of one of our surveys on the left here, using Microsoft Forms. Okay, so this journey that we've been on, it's been a 2-month process, trying to expand our Ultrix presence in the organization. What have we achieved through this methodology? Well, we've had 12 use cases completed. What that means is potentially 12 people in the organization have taken Ultrix Designer, learned it, and built a process that they previously did manually, and it's now fully automated. That can mean 50 hours out of their time, that could mean up to 400 hours. And of course, I just want to stress, these are people who are not technical. These were people who previously, this was just BAU for them. Now they've automated it. So this is maybe a conservative number here. We will want to update that one, but it's 450 hours annually saved in my area, CPO. We've collected we've got over 300 project members in the Teams group. That's through our onboarding process. 25 Ultrix certifications acquired in the past month. That for me is the biggest achievement of this, personally. I love certifications. And to see people wanting to take the time, potentially to sit 2 to 3 hour exams just because they want to is a big challenge. To get 25 people who weren't technical to sit those kind of exams, to feel confident enough and engaged enough to do that, I think speaks to this kind of approach. It speaks to the tool, it's something that people want to learn, and it also speaks to the community approach. We had over 1,000 attendees to our sessions, so that's about 10% of the organization. We've led multiple demo sessions. Like I said before, we wanted to make sure everyone was getting involved. One-to-one demos where necessary, just to make sure that the leadership and various team leaders knew what Ultrix was and what they were volunteering for. Multiple use case sessions. So these are the sessions I was referring to, where users would come in with what they've completed and showcase it to the organization. And here's another big one, 100 use cases submitted. So now we know within our organization what people are doing on the BAU side. We can now start to use that information to connect the dots for people, where people are doing similar processes, and also guide people. So if there are people in the same business area and we want them to communicate and collaborate on their Ultrix work, we can now centrally do that through the team site with this information. So I thought I'd kind of finish off with 2 calls for action. I'd like you to think, are you giving the right technology to the right people? Do the people in your organization have the ability to automate their own processes, their own BAU? And more than that, do you have a community where people can engage and feel like they can show off the work they're doing, and feel like they can show off the certifications they're getting, the upskilling they're doing? Or is it just that you have LinkedIn Learning and someone might go on there occasionally, no one really knows? And finally, yeah, exactly. Are you building that analytics maturity? Are you scaling yourself up through these systems, through technology, through community? So if any of that sounds interesting to you, in terms of building a community or seeing these technologies which break down the barriers to entry, I'd strongly suggest you come along to the Ultrix stand, where I'll be there, there'll be Ultrix staff there, and yeah, they'll be able to give you the full rundown and chat that through. So thank you all for attending. Have a great day.